fifth graders. I hope you had a fantastic weekend and you are ready to get back to math now. We only have 2 more weeks of school left. Can you believe that? And we are all done with working with decimals. We are over the next, basically a week and a half of math left. We'll do all of this week and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the last week of school, and then no more after that. So, we're doing like odds and ends lessons, ones that are just like, they're not going to be all the same. Every day will be something completely different. And the kind of fun stuff, I think you're going to find them pretty easy because most of them have pretty short assignments, and they're mostly things like with geometry and temperature and reading graphs, a few things like that. It's stuff that's I always think is really fun. So I think you're going to enjoy this last little bit of math. Just know we're going to be jumping around in the book a lot from lesson to lesson. So plan on that. Now, just so you know, you're going to hear piano music in the background again today. I don't know if you remember it's like a month ago. Not long after we started doing these online lessons, there was some piano music in the background. There's someone who is practicing. I taped these lessons at Camelback Church in one of the side rooms because they have this awesome whiteboard that I love so much here. And there's someone who practices on the piano here once a week, and I hit it again on the same time they're here, so you're gonna hear someone practicing. So we get a little musical accompaniment to our math lesson, okay? All right. Let's get started. We are today on lesson 88. This goes way back in the book to quite a ways ago that we were in the 80s, back when the quarter started. So this is one lesson that we skipped over because it wasn't related to anything else. And it is lesson 88, which starts on page 572. And if you look at the title, it's just one word. Do you see what it says? Transformations. And you're probably thinking, what in the world is transformations with math? Well, just know that what we're looking at is geometric figures here and how they can transform from position to position. Just simply that. Pretty easy concept. Okay, now I made a figure of the letter F that I have put onto the whiteboard here, because that is what they use in the example. If you look on page 573, you're going to see the example that they gave, and they actually have it on graph paper. And we don't have graph paper on our whiteboard, so we're going to imagine that part, okay? But you can see that figure F on graph paper in your book on page 573. You see a second F that looks like this, and it's laying there like that. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that second one there with my hand. And we're going to go through a couple of these turns. Because when we're talking about transformations, it's simply that we take our figure and we rotate it or we flip it, things like that. That's all it is that we're talking about. So we're starting with this, like this, right down here. That, okay? Do you see how that's what it looks like at the top of page 573? Okay, now if we wanted to move this, rotate this letter F that's laying down to get it into the same position as that one, the right-hand one, which is the way it would be if we were reading it regularly, let's think about what we'd have to do. The first thing we would need to do is flip this up like that, okay? And it says in that middle paragraph on page 573, to position the left-hand figure on the right-hand figure, we combine 3 different kinds of moves. First, we rotate the left-hand figure a quarter of a turn. See, it was like this. And a quarter of a turn means there. There's a half turn, there's a 3/4 turn, okay, so there's a full turn. So we're back to start. So a quarter of a turn means you're going 90 degrees up, okay? So 90 degrees up, there it is. So now it's standing up the same as the right-hand one is, but it's going the opposite direction. Do you see how it's going the opposite way? So remember, it was a rotated up, rotation, and then here's a word that's probably a new one to you. we translate the left-handed figure, so the two figures are back to back. To translate it, it simply means we move it over. Instead of being over here on the graph, we shove it over here so it's right there. Back to back, okay? That's a translation, where it's just moved. The direction has not been changed, it wasn't rotated or anything, it was just translated. Same position, just moved left, right, up, or down. We moved it right, okay? Now, if you turn the page to page 574, the last thing that we do is, it says, third, we reflect or flip the left-hand figure so that it's positioned right on top of this one. So this here, we flip it over. Ooh, look at that. They fit exactly the same. They're the exact same size. I actually cut those out of paper, one on top of the other, so I knew they fit, okay? But this last bit here, going from, we translated it to right here, back to back. Now we flip this over. Do you see how those two shapes reflect each other? It's like if they were in a mirror, they would be reflecting each other. They do reflect each other, okay? So we do a reflection, and we flip it over, and now we see they are congruent. Do you remember that word? Congruent? We use this word, congruent. We used that word back earlier in the year when we were working with geometric figures. If they're congruent, do you remember what that means? They're exactly the same, absolutely identical. So these are congruent figures. It might have been hard to tell that when it was back like this. Oh, it was not like that, it was like this. And we rotated it, we translated it, and then we flipped it, a reflection there, okay? Now we can see they're exactly the same. Now there are 3 words that we've been using here that they want to make sure that you know on page 574 in the little box. Do you see where it says translation? Sliding a figure in one direction without turning the figure. That's where we had it like this. It was over here, and we just slid it. We could slide it up, down, any way we want, but we're not flipping this over or anything. It's just sliding. That's a translation. Okay, so store that in your memory. Put it in there. Okay, the second word is reflection. Reflecting a figure as in a mirror, or flipping a figure over a certain line. Okay, so here's the reflection. It was here. See how they go back and forth? The one is a reflection of the other. So you need to know that word, reflection. Store that in your brain. And the third one is rotation. Rotation is when you turn a figure around a certain point. Okay, this guy was laying down here before, and when we turned him up. We could keep going. We could turn him down that way or this way. So that is a rotation, okay? Now, one thing you're gonna need to pay attention to on this lesson is it will tell you to rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. Some of you still get confused about which is which. When it's clockwise, it's saying the direction that the hands would go around a clock, okay? And that's always to the right, and then up, to the right, down, up. This is clockwise, okay? So if we're flipping it clockwise, we're going this way. The same direction the hands on the clock would go, okay? Counterclockwise is opposite way the hands on the clock go. So counterclockwise would be this way, going around that way. That's counterclockwise. So make sure you also remember those terms. That's going to be a big help to you as you do this lesson, okay? So you're going to figure out if some forms are congruent, if they are translations, rotations, what they are. You have 2 parts of your assignment today. The lesson practice on page 578. So you're going to do page 578, and you're doing A through F. And then you're doing, let me say that again. You're doing the lesson 88 worksheet, okay? Now, both the worksheet and the assignment in the book are very similar, okay? Very, very similar. And there's only let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 problems on the worksheet, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the lesson practice. You have 11 problems today. Woohoo for you. Because of that, I don't want to do them all for you, but I want to make sure you get it, that you understand it. So grab your piece of paper and let's do the lesson practice first from the book. So grab a piece of lined paper and let's take a look at a couple of these just so you know what you're doing, okay? And it's going to be very similar on your worksheet, same kind of thing. We're going to use RF. They say that they're going to do an R, but we're going to pretend RF is an R. You'll understand, okay? A says, sketch an uppercase letter R after a reflection in its vertical segment. Okay, so the R, you know what? I'm gonna pretend this is our R here. And so it's gonna keep going. Ah, look at that R. If we put the orange and the green together, now we've got an R, okay? So if we want to sketch an uppercase letter R after a reflection in its vertical segment. Here is its vertical segment. That's the up and down part. Remember the vertical segment? Okay, so we're doing a reflection of it. So instead of like this, it's going to reflect this way. So your R is going to be a backwards R. Let's see if I can do it. Something like that, okay? There's the reflection of the R. Does that make sense? Do you see how it's reflecting the original R that was the normal way? Okay. And then B says, sketch an uppercase letter R after a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. Okay, let's pretend that RF is a letter R. It's going to start like this, and we want to go 90 degrees counterclockwise. Remember, 90 degrees takes you from straight up to laying down. So our F is going to go from straight up to lying down, and we're going counterclockwise. Oh, it's our R. Okay, so straight up, we're going 90 degrees counterclockwise, the opposite way that hands on a clock would go. So we're going this way, like this. So the R is going to be laying down on its back. Okay, laying down on its back with the top of it over here. All right, so that is what the letter R is going to do. And then you have on the worksheet, you have a similar kind of thing, but using the letter B. Okay, so you're going to do a reflection for number 1 of your worksheet. And then, ooh, same thing, number 2, a B after 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. Okay? The second part of your assignment is you're simply going to be looking at figure A and figure B, and you're going to describe what moves have been made between them to get A into B, to turn into B. So the directions say, name the transformation or combination of transformations that could be used to position A on triangle B. So remember, you're starting with A. The first one looks like this, and there's a line down the middle. This one says A, and this one says B. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, what transformation would you need to do to A to get it to be B? Well, we'd have to flip it, right? So it would be a reflection. Okay, so all you have to do is say reflection, and that's your answer. Okay, now you have reflections, you have rotations, and you might want to say if it was rotated clockwise or counterclockwise. Describe in any way you can how figure A moved to get into the position of figure B. Okay, does that make sense? It's kind of fun stuff, isn't it? I love it. Okay, so do the 6 problems in the book, do the 5 problems on your worksheet, and you are done. Woohoo! All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.